Hello, I am Becca and you are watching Rue's Musings. I heard myself say in class the other day something that I felt was surprisingly appropriate for the truth of the matter, and that is that yoga is, so we can make this statement and finish it a lot of different ways. So I don't mean to say that this is the one thing that yoga is, but one way to understand yoga is that yoga is a practice of trying to make things that don't move, move. And if you think about all of the things in your life that don't move, and in your body that don't move, and in your brain that don't move, I think it's interesting that I was talking probably about, our shoulder blades, that this articulation of the action in the shoulder is a challenge. And before we're trained in how to move those muscles, the average person just has no idea. I mean, when was the last time that someone said, okay, lift your armpits up and draw the bottom tips of your shoulder blades towards one another while spreading out through the tops of your shoulder blades? Can you articulate that in your shoulders? Most of us, without some substantial training, can't, because they don't move. We haven't moved them in that way. We haven't paid attention to moving them. And that's a lot of what yoga is to get things in your life that are immovable, or the word stale kind of comes to mind, or ingrained. So a lot of it is about our thought patterns that we get to pull away from through these practices, mindfulness practices, to be able to see them. And once you can see your patterns, your thought patterns for what they are, whether it's I'm not good enough, or why bother, you're going to fail anyway, or nobody cares, or you have nothing special to offer, any of these thoughts that maybe you've had sometime in your life, and or you haven't had, we've had these thoughts, but I find the toxicity of these thoughts is much more in that you don't know that that's how you live your life. That's how you interface with your day all the time, is with these embedded beliefs that come from years ago or past lives, whatever you believe, that really affect how you live, and it's subconscious. We can also move things in our lives as far as our practices, so that, there's certain things that don't move. And it's interesting to me to think about this inside of Ayurveda. There's 3 doshas in Ayurveda. This is not an Ayurveda lesson, but one of them is structure. Kapha is structure. So that some of us are more in, we don't want to get off the couch. Under any circumstances, we don't want to get off the couch. Or we're super, super stubborn. And so for that type of person, a lot of the yoga practice is about finding movement, because they're so still, they're so stubborn, they're so steady, they're so solid. And as is my way with things, I thought, if that's true, that yoga is making things that don't move, is the opposite true? Which is just a habit I've come to think about in my life. If I find a statement that's true, is the opposite true as well? And usually with yoga, that it is. I think that's interesting. So yoga is also making things that are always moving slow down and still. And some of us can relate, many of us in our culture can relate to that as well, particularly with our mind. I need to do this, right? That's incessant, so that's what meditation does. And even inside of the more type A personalities, I have to do this, I have to, eat this thing and run 15 miles, and then I have to take care of the kids, and then I have to clean the bathroom, and then I have to, do my laundry. It's just like constant movement. And there's a dosha in Ayurveda that's that as well. The Vata dosha is movement. So that Vata's challenge is to slow down and to structure. So Vatas try to kind of incorporate more Kapha characteristics, and Kaphas try to incorporate more Vata characteristics. And I like this idea also because it gets us out of thinking that there's one right way for all of us to be, and there's one right intention, there's one right, path, list of things that you can cultivate to create balance in your life. And it depends on who you are. If you're a still person, if you're a steady, stubborn, solid person that's immovable, finding movement helps you find balance. It's not find good, find balance. So balance to me is an interesting idea, in part because it's not, it's a moving target. You can't you might find one moment, right? I'm balanced, and then something changes. So it's a constant practice. Whereas perfection is this goal that you can attain-ish, right? We think that we can attain it if our body looks a certain way, or if you get 100% on a test, those types of things, 1600 on the SATs, if it's still that. I don't know what the SATs are anymore. Yes. So I like this idea of thinking about the world in these relative terms, which Eastern culture, from my understanding of it, does much more so than our Western culture. That is much, we try to be much more black and white. Like, this is what a good person is, and this is what a bad person is, and we can define that so that our ego knows and put it away and call that truth. Whereas this idea of moving what's still and stilling what moves is constantly at play, and I just love that. So that's my offering to you, to think about your life, think about your tendencies and your habits and your thought patterns and your food choices and your activity level and your relationships, all the stuff we always talk about that make up our lives, and say, what is too solid, too still, too dormant, too lazy? How can we consider and increase movement? And on the other side, what's just so hyper and stressed and, and how can we still that? What do you guys think? Is that a fun way to think about your life? I think it's really fun. Let me know what you think, and please do share this video with your friends, and check out the other videos. It will be so fun, and I will see you next week.